Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. Dr. April here. As you can see, I've switched it up on y'all. I added some extensions to my locks. So anyway, if you are new here, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber, thank you so much for tuning in. So in honor of Maternal Mental Health Month and Women's Health Month, in May, I wanted to share this quick video with you just to give you some support, some help when it comes to all this getting pregnant stuff. It's rough out here, okay? And I want you to be prepared before you even conceive that baby. So without further ado, here are 5 questions you should ask before you get pregnant. So for starters, number 1, you want to ask your OBGYN to schedule what is called a prenatal appointment, okay? So at this appointment, essentially, before you get pregnant, you're discussing with your doctor any questions or concerns that you have in regards to getting pregnant, any questions you have on what to expect, anything that you should kind of be watching out for. So I recommend that before you go to your appointment, jot down some questions, have them ready for your OBGYN so that they are prepared and ready to answer the questions that you may have. And before I move on, let me just say this as a disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor, okay? Dr. Brown is a doctor, but I'm not a medical doctor, okay? I'm the kind of doctor that helps with your mental health, right? So I'm sharing things with you from personal experience and what I have found to be helpful, or some things that I wish I might have done a little differently. So I'm just letting you know, ultimately, like, these are some things that you might find helpful, okay? But for more specifics, I definitely recommend that you consult with your physician or your OBGYN or medical doctor, okay? So moving on to number 2. The second thing that you want to ask is for testing, okay? So the testing may look like STI testing, right? So making sure that everything comes up fine, and if they find anything, that they're able to provide you with some additional information to support you along your pregnancy. In addition to that, you also want them to test your iron levels, right? A lot of women tend to have low iron during pregnancy, so making sure that those levels are up is going to work wonders for you. And then also, my primary care physician also shared with me not too long ago that they have linked autism to low iron in pregnant women, okay? So you want to make sure that your iron levels are up to par, and if they are not, working with your doctor to provide you with some type of over-the-counter supplement will also be very, very beneficial. So you want to make sure that your iron levels are on point. Another thing you can ask your doctor to screen for, that's also in a simple and quick blood test, is egg count. Yes, ma'am, you can actually have your egg count tested, right? So what the test does is it shows if you should be having a baby sooner rather than later, right? And so, if your egg count is looking a little bit on the lower side, you might not want to wait too long. You might want to start planning to have a baby. But if you have a ton of eggs, everything's healthy, everything's in the right range, then you may have a little bit more time, okay? And I'm speaking specifically for my women who are like 35 and up. So get your egg count screening. They can look at that through your blood as well, all right? And the third thing that you're going to ask for is for intravaginal ultrasound, okay? So this is the ultrasound that is done through the vagina. So it's not the ultrasound that is done, on top of your stomach, on your abdomen. This is a ultrasound that is done intravaginally, hence the name, okay? And so this type of ultrasound is good to check for any anomalies or any issues, inside the uterus, so to speak. So when they do the intravaginal ultrasound, they can see your uterus, they can see your ovaries, they can see your cervix, they can see everything for the most part, okay? And one of the things that you really want them to be looking for endometriosis. You want them to be looking for fibroids. If you have a history of fibroids, it is very, very important that you make sure that your doctor can see the size, how many you have. And let me just say this. If you have fibroids and if you have some really, really big ones, sometimes it can be very hard to really see some of the fibroids on the ultrasound because they tend to be blocked, okay? So have them screen for fibroids. See if they see anything there. Yes, and also from the intravaginal ultrasound, they can take a look at your ovaries. They can see if you have any cysts on your ovaries. They can also take a look at your uterus as well. I just want to do a quick sidebar because 80% of Black women suffer with uterine fibroids, okay? And some people have small fibroids, some people have bigger fibroids. Whatever the case may be, it is important that you are aware that if you have uterine fibroids, it can cause issues during your pregnancy. It doesn't happen for everyone. Sometimes the fibroids tend to move out of the way as the baby grows and the baby develops, but in other cases, it can cause problems for your pregnancy. You may have bleeding, cramping, and many women have experienced miscarriage as a result of having complications with their uterine fibroids. And so I recommend talking with your doctor to see if they recommend that you have a procedure to remove the fibroids, or if there's something that you can do to shrink the fibroids. A really good minimally invasive procedure to minimize the fibroids is called, or not minimize, but to remove the fibroids is called a myomectomy. Talk with your OBGYN to see if that is something they recommend. Typically, when you have your fibroids removed with the myomectomy, you usually have a 3-year window before they could potentially come back. They don't always come back, but it is a possibility. So you just want to make sure that you do try to have the baby after you've had the myomectomy and you're in the clear to start trying for a baby, okay? And so definitely make sure you get an intravaginal ultrasound so that they can screen for any issues that may pop up. And a lot of times, when we're going to our annual appointments, typically you're going to get a pap smear. They're going to check your breasts. They're going to do a STI screening as well. And all of those things are great, but I personally recommend, especially if you have a history of fibroids, that you have them looked at least once a year, okay? So just keeping an eye on them, making sure that they're not growing, making sure that they're not multiplying. Try to have your fibroids examined at least once a year, okay? And then also, I want to say this, because cervical cancer is completely preventable. Even though typically once you have a normal pap smear, they say you can wait up to like 3 years. I don't recommend that. Your insurance a lot of times covers your cervical cancer screening or your pap smear once a year. Girl, go ahead and just do it once a year. Don't even wait that long. Do it every year. It can't hurt anything. I recommend that you do that as well, okay? Because you don't want anything sneaking up on you. So making sure that you're staying up to date as well on your pap smears is definitely going to be helpful. And you definitely want to make sure you don't have any issues prior to getting pregnant, okay? And moving on, fourth thing that you are going to ask for, okay? So let's just say once you had the ultrasound done, your OBGYN kind of sees something, but he or she is not really sure. They're like, you know what? Let's just do some further testing, okay? Sometimes they'll recommend some testing, sometimes they won't. But you can ask for this test as well, okay? And this is called a hysterosol pengogram, okay? I'm gonna have it at the bottom of the screen. It is the longest word I have ever seen. But anyway, you want that test done, okay? Because that test is basically an x-ray that takes a look at the shape of your uterus, and it really measures the integrity of your uterus. It looks at your fallopian tubes to make sure that the egg can get out to even meet the sperm, and you want to make sure you're not having any of your fallopian tubes are blocked as well, okay? Because that can significantly decrease the likelihood of you being able to conceive. So you want to make sure that everything is functioning and working as it should, and you can do that by having a hysterosol pengogram done, okay? So ask for that. So let's say once you have that done and the doctor takes a look at everything and that test comes back excellent, you should be good to go. Don't worry about anything, okay? So if you get some results back that seem kind of iffy, your doctor kind of wants to do further testing, they're a little concerned about some of the results from the hysterosol pengogram. I don't know why I'm saying it so many times. was gonna say one time, but anyway, you can also ask your doctor for, and sometimes they'll recommend it, but if they don't, you can say, well, hey, can we have a pelvic MRI done? And what a pelvic MRI does is basically it gets a real big picture of what is happening. It can see everything, okay? So doing that is going to be imperative because sometimes, you know, some of the other testing, including the intravaginal ultrasound, the H-gram that I mentioned, we're gonna call it H-gram for now, okay? Sometimes it can miss things, okay? So the pelvic MRI can really see a bigger picture of what might be going on in your uterus. So what I would recommend with the pelvic MRI, or why it's important, I would say this, is like, okay, so if you're a person who has had some type of procedure done on your lady parts, okay, whether that is, I don't know, you had a tube removed, or you had a myomectomy to have your fibroids removed, or you had some other kind of pelvic procedure, you definitely want to have a pelvic MRI done so that they can make sure that everything is good and there's no surprises, okay? And another thing to keep in mind is that sometimes on the ultrasound, things can look like one thing and be something completely different, okay? So in my opinion, the pelvic MRI is the best way to kind of get a bigger picture of what might be going on with you. Okay, but again, the H-gram and the pelvic MRI, they are additional extra testing that may or may not be necessarily necessary for you. Everybody's story is different. Everybody's body is different. You know, you just have to really work with your medical provider to figure out what's the best option for you. But I promise you, if you do these things, you are going to be fine. You are going to thank me for it, okay? And I also want to say this, and especially diving into the maternal mental health piece in this video. So this is our bonus question, okay? You have to ask yourself, am I ready for a baby? Are you ready for a baby? And when I say that, everything we've talked about so far in this video has been more physical, right? But also carrying a baby is very mental, it's emotional, it is spiritual. So you want to make sure that your mental, your emotional, and your spiritual well-being are on point before you carry this baby. It may be one of the hardest things you have ever done in your life. So you want to make sure that you are good to go. If you are a woman who has had a history of a miscarriage or a stillbirth, then it is imperative that you work through that grief and that loss, because when you get pregnant, again, some of that may come up for you. You may be very anxious. You may be worried, which is quite normal, I must add, but you want to be able to keep some things at bay, right? You don't want to be so stressed out and so worried that your blood pressure is up during pregnancy, right? Or that you're so stressed that, you know, you have a repeat miscarriage. So you just want to make sure that you are ready mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And if you feel like you have some unresolved issues or you have not completely processed a previous loss, I recommend that you get into some type of therapy so that you can work through that, because you have to show up as your best self for this new baby, okay? And you want to make sure that you're feeling good and that all is well, right? And I'll also say this, and this is for people who haven't lost children as well. If you have some unresolved issues that you need to work through them before you get pregnant, okay? And I say that to say is a lot of times we don't even realize how some of our unresolved stuff can be passed along to the baby, especially the trauma, right? I'm gonna tell you right now, if you have high anxiety now, you're gonna have high anxiety when you're pregnant. If you're depressed now, you may be depressed when you're pregnant, right? So you wanna just make sure that your mental and your emotional health is on point before you decide to carry that baby, okay? And yeah, I think for the most part, we have covered everything, right? So in this video, let's do a quick recap. I talked to you about 5 questions that you should ask before you get pregnant, right? So the first thing you're gonna ask is to schedule a prenatal appointment with your OBGYN. The second thing that you're going to do is that you're gonna ask for various forms of testing. The third thing you're going to do is you're gonna ask for an intravaginal ultrasound. The fourth thing that you're going to do is that you are going to ask for a hysterosol pengogram if you need it. And then last but not least, you are going to ask for a pelvic MRI if you need that as well. And then remember, as a bonus, you need to check in with yourself to just make sure that you're ready to have the baby. Another thing, if you are planning to start trying for a baby soon, make sure that you are on your prenatal vitamins, okay? You don't have to be actively trying to be on your prenatal vitamins. If it is something that, if ultimately you want to have a baby and you know within the next year or two you're getting ready to start, you can start taking your prenatal vitamins now, okay? So make sure that you're getting all the nutrients and things you need kind of built up in your body or stocked up in your body so that you can be ready to have that baby, okay? And everything can be ready to go, all right? So make sure you get some good vitamins. I personally like to use, especially for my vegans, ladies out there, or if you're just looking for a vitamin that is not as, doesn't have as many chemicals or as many like things in them, I definitely recommend Ritual. Ritual has a really good prenatal vitamin. And then you can also try Ray Wellness makes a prenatal vitamin. I stopped using them. They were having some issues with their distribution, so I went ahead and got back with Ritual, and I really like Ritual's vitamin. Yeah, I can't recommend anything else, but I like Ritual. So if you're a vegan, great option. If you're just looking for something a lot cleaner, doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff in it, and that is vegan friendly and lactose free and all of that, definitely look into Ritual vitamins, okay? And I also want to say that I'm just rambling. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. I hope that you found this information very helpful. If so, please share it with a friend. Make sure you hit that like button as well. And this video was very timely because you would not imagine how many clients come to therapy with me asking, you know, if I have any suggestions for them or any things that I would recommend when they go meet with their OBGYN or to have that prenatal appointment. What are some things that they should ask? And it's amazing to me that a lot of us don't know. And so because I know, it is my job to share that information with you so that you can pass it on to another sister who might need this information, okay? If you found this video, like it, share it with a girlfriend who is considering having a baby, or if you know a young lady who recently lost a baby, had a miscarriage or a stillbirth, share this video with them. This might be one encouraging. It might give them some different pointers and tips to help them as they consider trying again in the near future. And so I really appreciate you for watching this video today. Thank you for tuning in. And before I let you go, I also want you to remember that I always have tons of resources in the description box, okay? So feel free to look around. If you have not joined my email list, go ahead and do that. I also want to invite you to follow me on social media. I am on Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest at The Wellness Room ATL. And then in addition to that, I want to remind you that I really appreciate you for supporting the channel. You can support the channel by buying me a coffee, by using that Ko-fi link in the description box as well. And before you go, let me leave you with this. Remember that you are a beautiful flower that blooms and flourishes. May your radiant light continue to nurture those around you. And thank you so much for bringing beauty to our community, one petal at a time. Thank you. Take care of yourself. Bye.